We are coming towards the end of this module. What is missing now is the relation between our places and our users. To bring this back to your mind again, we have the structure now, so we have users and places. And now in the end, the goal is to make sure one user can create multiple places and one place belongs to exactly one user only. But what does this mean for us though? Well, as we have our sign up logic now, this means we can create a new user. Well, we also will create an ID for this user. And this means if we now create a new place, we want to make sure that if we create this new place, this place will contain the user ID, so the ID of the user it belongs to, and at the same time, the place ID will also be added to the user document, so to the user data. Now, adding the place ID to the user and the user ID to the place, so on both documents, is not required here as we're using a NoSQL database. For SQL databases, this would be required, but for NoSQL, we structure and define our queries. For demonstration purposes, we will follow this approach though, so to add the IDs in users and in places. Another important side note, the sign up logic at the moment, so creating a new user, will return an ID, and when we create a new place, we will copy and paste this ID in the end. This approach will of course be changed in the authentication module of this course. There you can log into a user and then the ID will automatically be added to the place. For the moment, this is just a dummy code we use. But the important thing now is if we create a user now, we get the ID, and if we then create the place and provide this creator ID will be stored in the place, and at the same time, in the user document, we'll store the corresponding place ID. Now, this sounds very theoretical here. Therefore, let's dive into the code and let's start with creating the relation between places and users. And to establish this relation or this connection, we have to change two things in the place.js and in the user.js file. Let's start with place.js here. Here we have the creator, which so far was a dummy ID provided by us. This should change now because now we want this creator to become a real creator ID, a MongoDB ID in the end. And to tell MongoDB that this is a real, MongoDB ID in the end, we simply enter type Mongoose types object ID. That's what we have to change here. So with that, the creator will be a real ID that has to be provided here. And required can again be set to true, of course. So we have to provide this ID. But we have to add one additional thing here. And this additional thing is the ref property, which finally allows us to establish the connection between our current place schema and another schema. And what is this other schema here? Well, our user schema. So we have to add the model name here, so user, and place it right here as the reference. This will become important later also when we use the populate method, but more about that in a few minutes. With that, we established the connection from a creator perspective. Now we have to do the same thing for our places. For that, we can actually copy and paste this object and go to our users.js file. And now we can paste this code. But one important difference, of course, here we now have to use the name of our place model, which was place. Can find this right here. So that's the name I'm referring to. And another important thing, we said that one place can only belong to one user. So here we have just the object, this is fine. But we said that one user can have multiple places. Therefore, we have to add an array here. This is how we tell Mongoose that in documents based on this schema, we have multiple places entries instead of just one value. With that, the relation is almost established. There is one additional thing that we have to change though. And this additional thing has to be changed in the user's controller. Because if we go up here to our sign up, we still have the places here as a single property. Here we have to change our places because the starting value for the places will be an empty array now. Once we add a new place, this will automatically be added. Therefore, we also have to make sure to remove places up here from our constant, like this. So this was step one. We created the relation between places and users, and we also defined the schema for each single place that gets added right here for our places property. So this object defines each single place that gets added. Let's now continue by creating a new place and make sure that the creator ID is added to this place and at the same time that the place ID is added to the creator.